Meeting for Tuesday, June 7th to order. Please call the roll.
Alderman Strelchuk?
Here.
Alderman Bushy?
Here.
Alderman Meyer is absent. Alderman Hancher?
Here.
Alderman Garrow?
Here.
Alderman Parrish?
Here.
Alderman Schneider?
Here.
And Mayor Nurbin.
Here. First up on the agenda is District 8 Alderman applicant interviews, and Assistant Administrator Schoeneman is going to take us through the process here.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. So tonight we have two applicants before the Committee of the Whole seeking appointment to the District 8 vacancy. How the process will work is we'll take one applicant at a time here in the council chambers for their interview. The other one will sequester in the North Conference room until it's their turn, and then they'll switch afterwards. Once the council is finished asking questions, we'll then move into item number 3.
Fantastic, thank you. And I assume we're going in order as listed in the agenda. So.
Yep.
First up is Mr. Bill Gephardt. So, Mr. Bonnie can take a seat.
Where would you like me?
I think just up at the desk. Either desk would be fine. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Mayor, we know the process. Could the city attorney remind us of the voting requirements and what we need to do, or will we be doing that after the interviews and public comment?
That would be appropriate. Sure.
Sure. So just as a quick reminder, because of the code that identifies where we have an absence or a vacancy, you have a deemed no vote. That means that you would still need the requisite 5 votes that we need at all things to make a formal recommendation. Recalling the mayor in this case, because it's Committee of the Whole votes, he is a voting member of the Committee of the Whole. So you need 5 votes, affirmative votes, to make a recommendation. In terms of the voting process, you each have slips of paper in front of you. When it comes to votes, you'll put the name of the individual that you wish to vote for. We'll collect them. Madam Clerk will count those votes and identify whether or not we have a winner or not. And if there is, that'll be that. If not, we'll kind of repeat that process from there. The only thing we will remind you is that these are not secret ballots. Each of the ballots in front of you actually has your district number on the back of it, so make sure that you're not sharing your slips with your neighbor, because secret ballots are not allowed for this purpose. The only purpose secret ballots would be allowed for is when we vote for common council president. So,
Thank you. So we're going to start off with a series of questions. I'll lead it off, and then we'll work our way around through the council members in order, and where Alderman Meyer's absent, I'll take his spot and ask his question that he would have been assigned. And then we'll wrap up with the closing statement. So the first question is, tell us about yourself and why you were interested in serving as District 8 Alderman, and what makes you uniquely qualified for this appointment.
Okay, great. Thank you. Nice to be here. Can you hear me okay?
Mm-hmm.
I can. Is it picking up on the mic fine? Maybe just a little bit closer. They're
A little bit closer?
finicky.
How's this?
That's perfect.
It's good? Okay. Okay, great. So as I heard it, that's a 3-part question. Is that right? Tell me about yourself. Why am I uniquely qualified? And the third one was, why am I interested in this position?
Correct.
Did I hear that right?
You're correct.
Okay, great. Thank you. Well, so I'll break it down into 3 sections. Where I'd like to start is a little bit on my background and who I am. Certainly, I want to start with my pride and joy, and that would be my family. And I've been married to my wife, Janet, now for 28 years. We've got 4 amazing kids. One that's working and living in Boston, one that's working and living in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, one that is going to be a senior at Colorado State, and then one that is going to be a 3rd year at University of Virginia. That's a little bit about the family side of things. I moved to District 8 in Mequon here when I was 1. My wife and I ended up buying our one and only home just down the street from where I grew up, believe it or not. And I like to preface that by saying that was her decision, not me pushing that, as much as I love being here. So it was great when she said, hey, I think I found our house. That was an easy decision for us to go ahead and make at that time. And From there, I go ahead and I work, I'm a partner in a private investment firm. Along with that, I go ahead and run a company in which we provide shared services to the portfolio companies that we own. Most of my day is spent on strategic planning. It's spent on going ahead and putting together high-performing teams. And it's also spent on going ahead and making sure that we've got the proper budgets and plans in place to go ahead and hold the team accountable. Your next question was, why am I interested in this? Well, first of all, Mequon's been a great place for me. I've got a lot of really strong, great memories as a kid growing up here. It's also been great to my family. 4 of our kids went to Donjus Bay, Lakeshore, and on to Homestead. We've got a lot of deep roots in this city. Ultimately, I want the opportunity to give back. And I also go ahead and look at it as an opportunity to be part of that team that's shaping the future and keeping this city a premier place to go ahead and live and raise a family, the same way that I've had that opportunity to do that. So that's really the tipping point for me and what's driving me to be here today and submit my application for this position. Then moving on to your third question is, what are my unique qualifications? I might look at that a little bit differently, and the way I'm going to explain that, do I have that right? Unique qualifications, correct?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Maybe I, in any event, the way I'd like to answer that is I have some strong qualities that I'd like to share with you. I don't know if they're unique, and I don't know if that makes me qualified. But certainly at the same point in time, I have some strengths that I feel are important to go ahead and make sure that you understand who I am and what I can bring to the table, okay? And that first one is that I'm a quick learner. And given the career that I'm in, I'm forced on a day-to-day basis to go ahead and learn very quickly. I've got to think on my feet. The role that I'm in is very fluid. I get hit with a lot of different things, a lot of out-of-the-ordinary things on a daily basis, and I've got to work through that. I've got to get up to speed very quickly on what the issue is, and then I've got to go ahead and be part of the decision-making process. So that's one of the qualities that I'd like to go ahead and point out. The other piece on that is my commitment level. When I decide to get involved with something, I go all the way. So make no mistake, me being here today is a sign of my commitment to what you can expect from me here moving forward. Okay? The other ones that I want to also quickly mention are the critical thinking. I'm an individual that processes the data. I like to peel the onion back, if you will, and look at really what the root causes are, and really, again, examine the data before going ahead and reaching a decision. I think that's really extremely important as I think of this role and how I would approach, my opportunity to go ahead and serve along you. And the other one and final one is the professional approach. I welcome different opinions. I think it's very important to have different opinions. As you have the responsibility as a council to go ahead and shape the future of Mequon, that's not to be taken lightly. It's important that there are a lot of good, constructive discussions along the way to make sure that you're making thoughtful decisions. And so having that opportunity to respect each other and do it in a professional manner sometimes can be a challenge, especially in today's society where everybody's got strong opinions. But again, with the background that I have in the leadership position that I'm in, I need to go ahead and operate, and I believe in operating in a professional manner. And that's something that you can go ahead and expect from me if I get elected here today.
Thank you. Are you ready for question 2?
Bring it on.
With that, Alderman Strelchak, take it away.
If you could please describe what you view as the primary duties of an alderman.
So the way I look at it and my understanding of it, Rob, is that it's representing District 8, those that live in that district, on the legislative and policy issues that relate to the city of Mequon. So taking their views and representing that. in again, shaping the laws and the standards of which we conduct ourselves and have here in this community. As part of that, it's my understanding that I'd be on one of the 4 standing committees, and part of the responsibilities that come with that are monthly council meetings, along with subcommittee or committee meetings along the way as well.
Take it away.
So I guess a good segue to that is then do you see, in your opinion, as the biggest challenge facing District 8?
What I'm hearing from those that live in the community alongside me is the construction that's going on right now. With the construction that's going on the highway and certainly along Port Washington Road, that's diverted some traffic into District 8 that wouldn't otherwise be coming that way. And that's created some congestion. And so again, from what I'm hearing, that's a big concern for my neighbors right now at this specific time. And so I would say that that's probably the biggest issue, is just having a voice and making sure that the schedules are being adhered to. And I think even more importantly is the communication that's being done to the district as to how things are being rerouted and what they can expect, because managing expectations is a big part of that as we work through the disruption.
Oh, that's me. That's since Dale's not here. What, in your opinion, is the biggest challenge facing the city of Mequon?
Well, I don't know that I can go ahead and put one above the other. What I would say, based on the homework that I've gone ahead and done, the city's done a good job of outlining their guiding principles. And I would reference back to the guiding principles, and that would be an area that I feel has been well thought out and certainly documented, and one that I would agree with. And certainly that would be, working to continue to keep property taxes low, which is certainly, I think, a staple and a signature for Mequon. In addition to that, the public safety. As you saw from the application that I submitted, we just completed the Citizens Police Academy, my wife and I. So that's near and dear to our heart right now, especially going through that program. And anybody that hasn't been through it, I strongly encourage it. What that force needs to go through, along with the fire department and paramedics and everything else, and cover 46 square miles and 34,000 calls that come in on an annual basis, that's a tall task. So that's certainly an item as well. Certainly the city infrastructure, part of and the economic development.
Alderman Hancher.
Okay, if the majority of your neighborhood was opposed to something, but you were in favor, what would you do?
That never happens. I'm just kidding. Well, first of all, as I said earlier, I welcome that difference in opinion. And I would hope that anybody living in the district that had a strong opinion would feel comfortable picking up the phone and calling me and addressing the situation, which I think is the right way to handle that professionally. The piece that I have found that can be a missing link very often is just the communication. I would want to make sure that they understand all the different data points, right? So often people don't peel back that onion and they're making decisions or forming opinions based upon what they see on the surface, not necessarily looking at all the data. The advantage that this group has is that you have more data available to you, and very often that you're involved with discussions with your peers that not every member in the community has the opportunity to be part of or is privy to. Okay, and so the first thing I would do is make sure as we have those discussions that they understand what the arguments are and what the issue is, and why the group has come to maybe a different opinion, or maybe why I have a different opinion on that, and talk it through. Okay, if that doesn't bridge the divide, then I believe I've got a fiduciary responsibility, since I'm representing that district, to go ahead and make sure that I'm supporting the majority view of the district, And I would make sure that I uphold that and follow through, even if that's against what I personally might choose to do.
Thank you. Alderman Gero.
Tell us about your views on economic growth in the city.
Well, I believe that it's important. How do I want to go after this? I think change is good, okay? Change is good, but change needs to be managed, okay? And it needs to be well thought out. And so therefore, I believe that economic development is important for Mequon continuing to be, again, that premier place to live and ultimately raise a family. If we don't continue to provide the amenities or the infrastructure here in this community that we currently have, eventually we will lose that position, and the citizens of this community are not going to be as happy as where they are today. So I feel that there's a responsibility to go ahead and continue to foster economic development. I think the important piece there is, as I look at it, is that, again, it needs to be done in a thoughtful way, and that the data needs to be taken into consideration. All the data needs to be taken into consideration. That would be the impact from the budget. That would be the impact from the infrastructure, whether that be roads, all the different factors that I know you take into account for this really need to continue to be examined. And I think that the predecessors have done a good job to get us where we are here today, and we need to continue to move that forward.
Alderman Parrish.
Good evening. One of the main duties of an alderman is helping to establish the city's annual budget. What would be your 3 main priorities for the next city budget in 2023?
3 main priorities. In the context of what? As it relates to the process?
Why don't we talk if you have any goals that you're looking to accomplish in next year's budget, any special things you're looking to propose, if you have any values that undercore your budgeting process.
That helps. Okay, sure. Thank you. Well, certainly, looking at it from a historical standpoint and along the lines of what I mentioned in part of the guiding principles is Mequon has always done a good job of really trying to go ahead and maintain a low tax base, okay? Keeping true to that means that the budget becomes a real hot topic on an annual basis because costs aren't going down, okay? So how do you manage that to go ahead and carry out one of the guiding principles that that is out there? And so how I would approach it and what I would recommend is you have to look at both the opportunities and the liabilities, right? And the opportunities are the revenue side of it. So where is there opportunity on the revenue side through a thoughtful process to generate additional revenue, again, so that we can offset some of the rising costs and ultimately get to that guiding principle of not having to go ahead and see a significant increase to the tax base. Okay, so I would focus on the revenue side. If we looked at it from the current budget, the 2022 budget, okay, the largest revenue stream is the tax base. Taxes account for 66%. So that probably would maintain some sort of a variance of what you've had in the past, of maybe 1% to 2% or 1% to 3%, somewhere in there is what I've seen from an annual standpoint. Then the next 2 big items from a revenue and opportunity standpoint are intergovernmental and licenses and permits. Where are there opportunities within those buckets? Those account for 16%. So those 3 line items, and I'm not trying to talk down to you because I know you know the budget. What I'm trying to do is explain my understanding of what the budget is and how I would go about and look at it. But those 3 buckets make up 82% approximately of the opportunities, and how could we generate more opportunities? So I think there needs to be discussion around that, okay, and talk about creative ideas as it relates to that. And then certainly the cost side of the equation needs to go ahead and continue to be a topic and managed, of which 75% of the costs are related to salaries and fringe benefits. It's a big number, 75%. I know you realize that. Materials and supplies are 6%, and purchase services are 9%. So how can we creatively continue to manage that while at the same point in time retaining and attracting the talent that we currently have to continue to manage the city in a meaningful way. Is that it? Did I answer your question?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Alderman Schneider.
So this may allow you just to give a little bit of summary of your thoughts, because the question is, what does the city of Mequon do well? And conversely, where can the city improve?
Well, certainly, I think that from a low tax base, that's certainly one of the areas that I think the city does very well, and I think that the historical data would support that, along with the competitive data looking at some of the neighboring cities as well, would go ahead and support that. I believe that the amenities in this city are appropriate, meaning that for those that want to have an opportunity to work where you live, there's opportunities to do that, and certainly there are plenty of additional amenities for social events, personal time in town, whether that be the parks or some of the other amenities as far as restaurants and that goes. So, I would say that it's got a good blend of everything from that perspective. And certainly the low crime rate. And again, I learned that firsthand, and that doesn't happen by luck. That happens by a good strategic plan and a good team that's leading that charge. And that's not something that you can take for granted in a society like this today. So those would be the three areas that I would say that I believe the city does a really good job with. The one area that I think that we can continue to challenge ourselves to get better at is communication. And that's a tricky area, because any organization, I think, is challenged with that, especially one that's talking about a population of some 24,000, and the staff that's here is, how do you communicate? How do we communicate to the community on the critical items? Okay, and that was one of the follow-up discussions that I had with Chief Pryor at the time as I completed the program. I felt like there was so much goodwill built in that program alone. And we put a simple Facebook post out there, and the amount of calls and comments that we had, like, how did you find out about this? Where did you learn about this? Like, this looks great. How do we get involved? And so there are new methods to be communicating out there that might be more effective, and I think there's an opportunity to go ahead and explore that.
Thank you.
Sure, you're welcome.
That concludes the questions. So just in closing, we invite you to make a few closing statements and remarks. And I don't think there's a particular time limit, but 5-ish minutes. I'm not going to cut you off. But
well, look, I don't think that I need that much time. Hopefully you got a good feel for who I am in the few minutes that I had the opportunity to talk, and certainly with the application that I submitted. I want to thank you first for this opportunity in your time here this afternoon. I also want to thank you for your service. It's a big deal. So, what I want to leave you with is really pretty simple. At the end of the day, I'm qualified, I'm eager, I'm committed, and I'm a tenured resident of this community. And it would be an honor for me to go ahead and serve alongside you. And that's what I want you to take away, if nothing else, at the end of the day. Thank you for your time.
thank you. So I guess we have to retrieve the other applicant.
Yep.
And you can go read the newspaper that Justin left for you back there.
All right.
For a few
Sounds
minutes.
great.
But thank you very much. I appreciate
Thank
your
you.
time.
You as well.
Or we should be, though. It's okay, yeah. So I was hearing a phone ringing. I was like, no, I think it's just a regular reading phone.
While we've got a short pause here, I'll remind everyone that if they like to speak, to please register. There should be some comment cards in back. I've got a couple already. If you don't fill one, I'll still let you speak, but
It's going to take 1 minute.
that'll be coming up next. Does anyone know where Robert is? Give us just a second.
You just said he'd be back in a.
Okay.
Restroom break, perhaps.
We'll wait till Alderman Strelczyk gets back, just to make sure he catches all of it. Sorry for the delay.
No problem. I can test my microphone. Can you hear me?
We pull it closer. Is it a good twap? Is it?
Testing. No? Is it on? Look, there's a green light.
They're kind of finicky.
Hello?
Speaking from experience.
Yep.
Pick up. Oh, try it again. Get it good and close.
Try it one more time, see if it
More
works.
testing. I'll just have to
You have
speak
to
up.
get pretty close to it.
I can speak up. I'm good at that too.
That's perfect. I know we can hear. I want to make sure that they get it on
On
the
the
AV
recording.
system. All right. I'll start off here, seeing Alderman Strelczyk returning. Tell us about yourself and why you're interested in serving as District 8 Alderman, and what makes you uniquely qualified for the appointment.
I was born and raised in Illinois, and I got a bachelor's in chemistry from the University of Illinois. When I worked outside the home, I was a data analyst for dental insurance companies, so I worked data and reporting. I now have lived in Mequon since 2010. I'm married, have 2 kids that attend public school, and I'm very active in a lot of different groups and organizations around town. I am interested in serving because I would like to know more about the city and how it works. I like learning new things, and I like meeting new people and hearing their stories. And in turn, I like helping them navigate whatever systems they're trying to accomplish. That's kind of what I ended up doing in my work life. I like to make things better. So this seemed like a really good opportunity to put all those things together. I feel like I am uniquely qualified because I have been a Girl Scout since I was 7 years old. I'm still a Girl Scout. I'm a Girl Scout leader. I was a Cub Scout den leader. I do all kinds of service. It's not just something I do from project to project or from time to time. It's ingrained in who I am. I am a volunteer. I'm a helper. I'm a connector. I know lots of people around town from all that participation in those groups and organizations. And if anyone has a question, I can almost always answer it, or I know somebody who can. And I'm always willing to put in the time to find out the answer if I don't know. Service is just part of who I am.
Thank you. With that, let's go with Alderman Strelczyk.
Hi. If you could please describe what you view as the primary duties of an alderman.
I believe that Alderman needs to listen to the constituency and pay attention to all of the details and all of the decisions that are being made from the many different aspects of city government, to be able to make decisions that are in the best interest of the whole and based on a broader view. They are the liaison between the residents and the city staff. An alderman would help the resident navigate the system to get whatever they're trying to do accomplished. They also determine the city budget in partnership with the city staff, and while giving that overall plan or direction as guidance.
And the segue is, in your opinion, what is the biggest challenge facing District 8?
So in my district, if you've been over there lately, I would say it's the I-43 construction. Keeping everybody informed of what's going on and abreast of what's going to be going on, that this is not a short-term thing. We have 3 bridges out right now. 3 more are going to close after those are open. But also knowing about the lake access, what's going on at Vermont Park for accessing the lake, keeping my ear to the ground for any erosion issues that may arise. We're one of the only 2 districts with lake access. I also think we need to continue retaining and recruiting new businesses for that Southport Washington corridor. There's still some empty spots in the pavilions, and now there's a new empty spot where that Port Zedler Motel was taken down.
Okay, me again. The absence is tripping me up here. Sorry. What, in your opinion, is the biggest challenge facing the city of Mequon?
So I think the city has put off some maintenance, and now they have even higher hills. We have even higher hills to climb because some of our buildings are not doing well. We have some hard decisions ahead of us about what we're going to do about it. I've been hearing about aging facilities for years, and I don't know of the broader plan of what we're going to be doing about those over the long term. Unfortunately, with the fire department merger, it's going to cost some money too, and safety is a higher priority than infrastructure. So I heard at the strategic planning meeting earlier this year, there are 5 main pillars that the city wants to focus on: safety, customer service, infrastructure and technology, quality of life, and financial stewardship. And I heard lots of repeating themes across those topics, like our pool. But in the end, the number one thing that was voted on was keeping taxes low. So we have a hard job ahead of us to keep the balance with all those other pillars, and also make sure you're communicating to residents as much as possible.
Alderman Hansher.
If the majority of your neighborhood was opposed to something, but you were in favor, what would you do?
In my experience is by the time the residents hear about something, it has often been discussed at the city level for quite some time, in committee or back and forth, or been circulating for a while. So I would focus on first communicating as many facts as I know about the situation as possible, and talking about pros and cons to different approaches. Maybe sometimes there's facts they don't know about, but really people want to be heard, and they need to be heard. We need to consider all of those facets and their perspectives. So it's important to hear what they have to say, but also along with that is the obligation to consider what's good for the city and how the impact of one decision fits in with the decisions overall of other things that are going on that they might not know about. So I would want to listen to them very carefully, consider their perspective, make sure I understand it thoroughly, but I'm not totally sure it would change my overall view.
Alderman Garrow.
Tell us about your views on economic growth in the city.
I think it's important to continue to look for new ways to grow economically while also maintaining that balance of growth across areas like retail and light industrial and residential. I think most residents agree that we don't want to see another Blue Mound Road here in this town. So not too much retail, but there's a lot that this group and the city staff want to accomplish, and all while keeping that financial stewardship pillar in check. So we need to continue to grow the tax base somehow. We need money to do all these things, but we also, at the same time, have to respect the roots of this city, the rural look and feel, how it came about, and the wishes of the residents. So as the population changes, their priorities may be changing as well. So we need to consider that. Do we want to continue to have that rural look and feel? And what is the cost of that? I'd also like to make sure that the existing businesses are being retained. I think retention is just as important as finding new businesses, just to keep them here.
Alderman Parrish.
Thank you. One of the main duties of an alderman is helping to establish the city's annual budget. What are your 3 main priorities for the next city budget in 2023 in terms of values, goals, objectives?
I think my top 3 priorities, number 1 would be that safety pillar of the strategic plan, finalizing the decisions and the actions necessary for merging our city fire and emergency services, making sure that safety is addressed. It's an expectation of the residents. It's one of those things that if you're doing it well, you're probably not going to hear from them, but if you're doing it bad, it's a big problem. So that has to absolutely be finished. Number 2 would be the infrastructure pillar of the strategic plan, ensuring we're addressing the needs of these buildings and infrastructure that need major renovation. We've been talking about the pool for a really long time, and I don't know of a plan in place. Is it a 5-year plan? Is it a 10-year plan? We just need to know what we're going to do about it. Also, you can't attract fire department employees if their workplace isn't what they expect. If we're hiring all these full-time employees and you have a workplace that they can do better somewhere else, then it could be hard to recruit. We need to address some of those issues in order to experience financial stability over the long term. My third one would be the quality of life pillar of the strategic plan. I don't want this to be a bedroom community. I want it to be a destination. I want a family to come to the center of town and have cheap or free things to do, have lunch at Hollander, go to ice cream at Purple Door later in the day. I want to hear about families that are biking up from the North Shore coming to Mequon for fun things to do. When my kids were little, I heard from so many people that they left town every day in the summer. They went to Cedarburg Pool, they went to Grafton Pool. I want people to come here.
Thank you. Alderwoman Schneider.
Okay, this is a bit of a wrap-up question. What does the city of Mequon do well? And conversely, where can the city improve?
I think Mequon does a lot of things well. And one thing that I think they do well is those services, all the services from the Department of Public Works, meeting those standard expectations from the residents. Like I said, people expect their streets to be plowed, their roads to be taken care of, the grass to be cut at the park, but they don't always see all of the planning and the effort that goes into making those things a seamless part of their lives. So if it's one of those things that they would complain if it wasn't good, of course, but they're not going to applaud if it is done well. It's expected. Our water service, I think, could be wrapped into that as well. If neighboring developments are asking to be part of our water utility, I think that's a huge kudos. What has not been as apparent to me is the broader-based plan. I was really happy to see that there was the effort this spring to create a strategic plan. From my perspective, I feel like the city has been making decisions kind of one at a time, year by year, without that overall plan or direction. There's some Band-Aids that exist around town, and we have the hard decisions to make. Continuing to put Band-Aids on things, like I mentioned the pool or the East Side Fire Department, City Hall, the rebars showing through the steps. If you don't do something, then in the long run, it's going to cost more money. So I am financially risk adverse. I recognize money needs to be spent, but I don't ever like to see it wasted.
Thank you. So here's the ultimate wrap-up question. Could you please provide some closing statements? And we'll give you, 5-6 minutes, but if you go a little long, we're not going to cut you off yet. See if you can go that long.
I think I talked too fast for 5 or 6 minutes, right? Thank you for coming here, for adding another meeting to your schedule, taking the time to hear from us. I am looking forward to using my time and talents in a new way. I look forward to meeting new people, hearing what they have to say. I'm ready to put forth the effort that this job will require. The League of Wisconsin Municipalities, which is a group that we recently became a member of again, had a training this past Friday, and there's a typo in your packet, so please excuse my typo in my letter. It was Friday. It was called Local Government 101. I learned a lot of information, but really it gave me just more questions I have to ask. But I think with that class, along with having attended meetings since this past November, I am ready to hit the ground running as much as I can, not only on Common Council, but on the Economic Development Board, Public Works, and as an alternate for the Library Board.
Thank you. That wraps up the interview session. I think we'll go get the other applicant, and then we'll move on to, in a minute here, to public comment. All right, thanks for bearing with us there for a minute. We'll take these in the order they were submitted, to the best I did shuffling them together. When I call you up, please come up to the podium. We'll read your name, address, and it says in the packet here, time limit is 2 minutes. I'm not going to be super religious about that since we are moving along quite nicely here this evening, but we'll try to keep it within reason so we can get all 7 or 8 people that signed up to speak through here and get onto the motion at hand. So first up, we've got Peter Bratt from 10317 North Province Court, and he wishes to speak. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of the Common Council. I am a resident of Lac Decour in the Mequon neighborhood, and I am here to speak tonight on behalf of Nancy Urbani's application to be a council member for District 8. Conservative commentator Nisbet, who was a professor for a long time at Columbia University, once remarked that we as humans are shaped by 3 forces: our family, our association, and our community. And I think in return, he argued that we in turn need to shape those forces as well. And I think Nancy serves as an excellent model for the city of Mequon to consider for having her as the Alderman for District 8. Nancy, like many of us, myself included, moved to Mequon for family. We know that this is a great community, whether you're living at the corner of Highland and Cedarburg Road or all the way to the traffic jam arteries on Port Washington. We also know that we are shaped by our association, and Nancy has done so much in the past few years since moving to Mequon, working in associations, whether it be at Donzers Bay Elementary School or at Mequon Rec, or also with Girl Scouts. We know that our associations here are something that we really value in our community, and I think Nancy has reflected this in her work. Finally, local community. Nancy has been on the park board in the past and has been passionately involved with local community issues. I think in return, Nancy really stands out with her efforts in local community organizations to an extent that the other candidate had not in the same way. I know that we need people who are involved in the community, and I think Nancy has done her work in both family, community, and association. So I encourage you to support Nancy's application to be alderperson for District 8. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Pat Marchese, 1625 West Estherbrook Court, and wishes to speak in support of Nancy Urbani.
Thank you, Mayor, Alderman. Most of you know me. Pat Marchese, my wife and I have lived in the city of Mequon for 32 years. And in that time, I've had the privilege to work with many of you and work with the city of Mequon. I actually was the chairman of a visioning committee back in 2000, appointed by Mayor Newber. I was on the planning commission for 4 years. I was the chairman of the Park and Open Space Board for 6 years. So also I have been a supervisor for Ozaukee County in 2 different districts, the 19th and the 20th. So actually I am here to say I have had the privilege of working with Nancy at a level of where things get done. Nancy and I were both on the park board. She was the vice chairman. And it was at that time when the city had just finished the asset management report, as you will recall. And at the same time, we were working on a comprehensive plan for the city of Mequon Parks. Her work was absolutely valuable from the perspective she brought the ideas of the younger community, especially from different, as you know, she's part of Mequon Moms Group. And she brought that perspective to the Parks Board. She also was very helpful in setting goals and objectives, primarily because she kept on driving us to be smart, to be effective, and to be implementable. It came with her work experience. It also was very refreshing for me, and a guy that's been around politics for a long time, to see that she went right to the heart of the matter. For example, what are we doing with the pool? She absolutely dug into that to the detail and came out with an understanding that it was not a simple problem. It was something that needed deliberation. It needed something that needed communication and collaboration. So with that, I'd like to strongly encourage you to support the approval of Nancy's appointment to the 8th District. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Marchese. Next, we have Peter Glazer, 10935 West Wingate Trace, wishes to speak on this matter as well.
Thank you. You probably received a letter from me that I submitted yesterday. I just want to say, well, first of all, I'm a 12-year resident of Wingate Trace. I live in District 8. I'm a third-generation resident of Mequon. I just want to say I thought these were very good questions, and it was very informative, and appreciated the answers. I submitted a letter in support of Bill Gephardt, and after listening to both candidates tonight, I just want to reiterate my support. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Jana Lee Hitchcock, 11065 North Pebble Lane, wishes to speak.
Thank you, everyone. I'm first and foremost a District 8 resident, and so I feel like the opinions of District 8 perhaps carry a little more weight here. I also submitted a letter which is in your board packet, and if you haven't read it, I encourage it. It's worth a read, if for no other reason than to find out how I taught a bunch of 9-year-old boys how to sew. We have before you two very qualified candidates. I was impressed with the professionalism. They hit all the qualifications. They both live in District 8. They both care about the city, and apparently both are really going to help us with that construction traffic issue. But what strikes me and why I continue to support Nancy is her theme of service. Not only has she proven it with her track record of volunteering in the community, but she also proved it here tonight with her excellent knowledge of the issues and challenges that face our city and District 8 specifically. The theme of service really strikes home, and I'm sure I don't have to tell all of you that service is really what it's all about. I think Nancy can really embrace our community and do a fantastic job as alderperson. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Amber Schrader, 10877 North Wildcat Way, wishes to speak.
Hey, good evening, Council. Thanks for hosting this meeting. Great job, candidates. Awesome questions. I'm just here to reiterate that I fully support Mr. Gephardt. He's a lifelong resident, knows the city better than most of us here in this room. With the possibility of a recession looming, Mr. Gephardt's experience becomes invaluable to the aldermaniac position and to the city of Mequon. This isn't the time for on-the-job training for someone who is curious about city government. We need another well-qualified person to join the rest of you to keep Mequon moving forward. We need a candidate who hasn't been divisive in this community and who hasn't been aided by a political action committee to get here. Mr. Gephardt is a level-headed businessman who brings a tremendous amount of business, financial, and leadership experience to the team. He has raised his family here and is committed to the city, a commitment that would follow him to an appointment here as alderman. I fully support Mr. Gephardt to represent District 8. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry, I'm going to make a mistake on this next one for sure. Nita Esmashi? Am I close? Please correct me.
Sure, no problem. It's Nada Smiley.
Okay, thank you.
My handwriting's terrible. That's probably the reason.
I suffer from the same thing, yeah. We're all good.
I would like to speak today, so thank you very much for allowing us to view and participate in these comments, in this process, in these comments. I'd like to speak today in support of Nancy in her application for Alderman of District 8. I sent emails to all of you earlier today expressing the reasons why I think Nancy is an exceptional candidate. I'm not going to regurgitate that email, but I just want to emphasize the bottom line, which is that in the time that I've known Nancy, she has shown herself to be a very intelligent and thoughtful individual who is deeply committed to this community. It's unique to find someone who is as open-minded and willing to listen to others as Nancy. I think these qualities make her ideally suited for a position such as this, as a public servant in local governance, connecting with and problem solving for the community. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And last we have Monica Martin, 209 East Ironwood Lane.
Hi, I'm Monica Martin. I live over on the east side, and I've been a member of this community for 24 years. My husband and I moved here because it is a bedroom community. We like the quietness that Mequon provided. We were living in Shorewood before choosing to live here. We love the schools. All three of my kids are in public school. I'm here to support Bill Gephardt as our next alderman of the east side here in Mequon. So thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would wish to speak? We'll entertain comments if there's anyone left. Seeing none, we'll move on to item number 4, where we'll have formal recommendations, some deliberation on the committee here. Does anyone wish to speak? Oh, we haven't started yet, so would you like to make a public comment, sir? Okay, but please. Sure, step up to the podium, give your name and address.
Rich Kaczynski, 12967 North Colony Drive, Mequon. On behalf of speaking for Bill's qualifications, number 1, he's a lifelong resident, a second-generation District 8 resident, a married father who helped raise 4 children, putting all through the MTSD school system. He's a partner in a family-owned business employing a nationwide workforce of 1,000 employees, a president and CEO of a shared service organization, a candidate with over 30 years of executive leadership, a graduate from Babson College of Boston, Massachusetts, with a Bachelor of Business Administration in Finance and Entrepreneurial Studies. He's also the president of the Juniper Road Corporation, which displays community leadership and involvement. And I think that this is the type of individual that the Common Council would gladly approve and welcome as the District 8 Alderman. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, bringing it back to the committee here, why don't I just start off and we'll see if anyone else wants to speak. Thank you both for applying. You both have excellent qualifications. It's clear you're both qualified, very passionate about the community, in uniquely different ways. We'd be lucky to have either of you. So no matter what happens tonight and next week, something different can happen. You never know how this is going to play out. I would hope you would both consider running again in April, and whoever wins will have to run again because that's the way this process works. But choice is good. I would hope that if you're committed to the appointment process, you would be subsequently committed to giving it a go in an open election. But we need to fill the vacancy so we can get our business done a little more efficiently ahead of that process. Hence why we're seeking applicants for appointment. But I would encourage you both to run. With that, I'll open the floor for anyone who would like to speak one way or another. No takers.
Well, I'll
Okay, go
I
ahead.
guess I can never resist
Alderwoman
saying
Schneider.
something. I really appreciate both of you. I've been through that myself. It's, daunting at times, and I can see that you're both people that would really have the capacity and the desire to serve, so it's a little challenging. But I have to say that I served on the park board with Nancy, and I've served on a lot of boards that have community residents. And she really stood out to me as someone that came, saw, and jumped right into it, as opposed to just coming to the meetings, listening to what other people said. She listened to what other people said, but she really came with a desire to do the work. And I think she also exhibited that in the way that she approached this process, in that she's been doing the work. She went to the course on government. She has been coming to Common Council meetings, I think, for 6 months or so. She came to our strategic planning meeting, which was a day-long, or I don't want to say ordeal, it was a day-long process. So I feel like she's really shown that she's here to do the work, and I appreciate that. I appreciate both of you because I think that you're both wonderful people to have in Mequon.
Alderman Strelchuk.
I too can't resist a chance to speak, so thank you. Both of you, thanks for coming. You're both very qualified, and as the mayor said, we'd be very fortunate to have either one of you in the seat in District 8. This process is real. You find a passion for the city when you decide to apply, and then you find a deeper passion for the city when you choose to run in an election. And I think we've got 3 aldermen, or 2 aldermen, 1 alderperson, and a mayor that have all been through this process. So we take this very seriously, and we take this into deep consideration, and we're grateful for the enthusiasm within the community. So really, I'm not going to advocate one way or another. I came into this meeting with a very open mind. I read the materials, educated myself on who the people were, and I'm just really pleased to see that you guys presented yourself so well for the community. And again, I think we'd be very fortunate to have either one of you on the seat. Thank you.
Alderman Parrish.
Yeah, not to reiterate my colleagues, thank you both for applying. It's really a tough decision, and I think you both put your best foot forward. I do have to say that I have known Mr. Bonney for probably almost 10 years, and since I don't feel the candidates are going to have a chance to speak again this evening, I did want to say I've never, in my experience, witnessed any of the kind of connotations for politics. That would be an automatic no for me. This is an apolitical common council. We're not partisan, and I don't believe Nancy is either. So just want to at least state that. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Boucher.
I guess I'll add the same. Thank you both for throwing your hats into the ring for this. I would like to start out saying I'm not a fan, and it's not a secret of this process, that we as council are going through this step to select you, because I firmly believe that's something that the residents of District 8 should be doing. The last time we did that for District 8, just to warn you, we ended up going to becoming mayor. So just getting that out there as to what might be in your future. But again, I'm not a fan of the process, and we did receive a lot of feedback. I cannot attest to who actually lives in District 8 or not, but the emails that we received, at least to the count that I had, that in the last couple of days, that there were 28 in favor of Mr. Gephardt and 2 in favor of Mr. Bonney. So even though that's not even representative of a district, that is, to me, a good measure as to at least some voices out there coming forward. I did have a chuckle with Mr. Gephardt's peeling an onion analogy, because for about 9 years I worked for somebody who started off with stories of peeling the onion. I'm like, oh no, we have a lot of work in front of us, because that's what we ended up doing, was tearing things apart and finding all the nitty-gritty details. So I appreciate that perspective. And so I find that to be something definitely that's necessary for the council, is going back and forth and peeling the onions.
Anyone else want to peel another layer off the onion? Alderman Garrell.
I wanted to speak last, but I guess that no one else is going to speak. I did read the letters that came in here in the last couple of days, and there was, I counted 25, but I didn't count that quickly, so I guess Alderman Bushy counted 28 to 2. and I read them, and a lot of them were from District 8 in favor of Bill Gephardt. He's a professional, smart guy, and I always valued somebody who is a quick learner. I didn't want to have to say what I'm going to say now. I really didn't want to have to say this. I wrote it out, and I said I'm not going to say it unless I have to. I don't want to, but I can't keep my mouth. I can't just ignore the truth. It's more important, and I wrote it down, and I said, this is how I feel, but I'm going to listen. I'm going to be impartial. I'm going to be honest. I'm going to make a decision. And I'll read you what I wrote because I'm not going to change my mind on it because nothing changed it here today. More important is what people do, not what they say. Anyone can say anything. I read Cheryl Rebholz's email to all of you regarding candidate Urbani's Milwaukee Journal Sentinel article, and the falsehoods knowingly represented it. Before tonight, I have never met nor spoken to Nancy Urbani. However, I am very familiar with her activities, and her activism. Most of what I read and saw comes from social media that residents forward me and from next door posts. What was posted about me was dishonest and, in my opinion, outright libelous. Residents told me that I needed to respond. I told them I wasn't going to, as the internet trolls, many of which are paid, only seek to engage with more slander and lies, creating a vicious cycle. Unfortunately, Nextdoor continued to notify me of posts. Finally, I responded as a private resident in my own name, reminding everyone that Nextdoor was started to bring our community together, not to tear it apart. Becky Woody Schaefer immediately responded, posting libelous accusations. I posted that much of what she said was not true, and that my intentions were to pursue legal remedies if necessary. Shortly thereafter, as some of you might have read, I explained everything in the news graphic op-ed. Before this meeting, I had a tech-savvy resident gather the referred to posts, only to be told that everything had been scrubbed from the internet and from Nextdoor. The Common Council gets it right the vast majority of the time and functions well. We have a very important job. I will not support someone who I consider dishonest, a dishonest internet troll, to suddenly change and become honest and impartial. Given this history, selecting Nancy Urbani as alderperson representing District 8 and the city of Mequon would be disrupting and add divisiveness to a well-functioning common council. I'm sorry I had to read this. I did not put it on Nextdoor now. I held back until now. You're not going to change. I know it. I never got an apology. And you know what? I stayed off of that stupid Nextdoor now because you guys turned it into a vicious cycle all about politics, when it should have been bringing the community together.
Are there any further comments from the committee? Hearing none, I guess we're going to take it to a vote. So what's the procedure here, City Attorney?
Sure, just as another quick reminder, there are slips in front of you. You will enter the name on that slip of the candidate you wish to seek the appointment or to have the appointment, and then we'll pass them in, and Madam Clerk will tally the votes. And if there is a winner on the first time, that will be that. If not, there may be more comments, discussion to follow, and we'll go from there. Yes, and as we talked about earlier, 5 votes will be necessary for the appointment. Mayor.
Okay.
Okay, we have one vote for Bill Gephardt. One vote for Bill Gephardt. One vote for Nancy Urbani. One vote for Nancy Urbani. Vote for Nancy Urbani. Another vote for Nancy Urbani. And final vote for Bill Gephardt. So we have 4-3, Nancy Urbani 4, and Bill Gephardt 3.
So we did not have a necessary 5 votes to make a formal recommendation. Is that correct?
Correct. And so the process at this point would be if anybody wishes to make their case as to one or the other candidate with the hope of convincing somebody else, you certainly can do that. Otherwise, take another vote recognizing where the votes are. Somebody may change their mind without saying anything. So.
Does anyone have anything else to add to the conversation? Not seeing any comments. All right, let's try one more vote and see if anyone budges.
Seems very similar to when I was in the seats over there.
It won't be that bad, Rob.
Can't be all bad. You're still around.
Yeah. A little less hair.
Okay, we have one vote for Nancy Urbani. One vote for Bill Gephardt. Nancy Urbani. Nancy Urbani. Bill Gephardt. Bill Gephardt. Nancy Urbani. No change.
So we've achieved the same result. I'm assuming that no one is going to change their vote. So continuing this might be an exercise in futility. We can push this on to the Common Council with no recommendation as well, noting we are down a member. That will likely decide the outcome of this next week. I don't think we're going to get any farther tonight. Someone begs to differ.
Right. Yeah, I would agree with that. Certainly, you could send it with no recommendation. You'll have an extra vote at the next meeting, which may or may not help.
It may or may not. It may just result in a tie. Well, there can be no.
Wouldn't be a tie.
Wouldn't be a tie because I don't get the vote.
Right. But you may not still have enough votes. You wouldn't have the
Correct.
5 to.
Alderman Strelczyk.
Yeah, point of order question. Does the mayor get to vote at Common Council because it's a recommendation on, so?
No, at Common Council, the mayor is, as he is at all Common Council meetings, he would break a tie at that point. Since you, well, you would potentially have a tie because you count the no vote and have a no vote.
We wouldn't have a recommendation.
Yeah.
I think the same thing did happen last time.
Right.
Right.
With Alderman Strelczyk and the.
Yeah. So.
Separate election. And then secondarily, in light of the fact that it may be a stalemate after the next Common Council meeting, I'd request that we added to the agenda reconsideration of the process if for some reason we do not appoint somebody, either via a special election or whatever, because I definitely would not want to see that seat go vacant through April.
Could the city clerk remind us of the rules surrounding special elections?
So the special election would entail a potential primary if there were 3 people that decided to run. And then 4 weeks after a primary was set, the special election would be held. As far as the timing, I am not sure about that. We're too late to coincide with the August and November elections that are already scheduled. So this would potentially be after the November election.
Right.
Is that fair to say, Brian?
Correct, and without looking at the statute, and certainly I can this evening if anybody truly cares, but I'm not 100% sure. I know that the statute says that you can't hold an election to fill a vacancy between the August primary and the November general election. What I don't recall is if that's just the final election such that you could have a primary in the middle of those or not. So either way, you'd be looking at a general election probably sometime in November at the earliest, or subsequently thereafter. If you had to have the primary outside of that window, you'd probably look at the earliest you'd have the general election would be December.
And then could that be for the
I'm just
balance of the
curious
term?
about
Just
how
curious,
this,
okay.
I'm just curious how this happened, how it's structured in such a way that we can't come to a final conclusion. It's kind of painful for the candidates.
That's because we need a majority of this body, and this body is 9 people, so a majority is 5. And then there's the glaring
So-
vacancy that I created over there.
But if there's a tie on the next, say, okay, we have a person missing who could go either way, and if it could result in a tie, a 4-4, correct? And at which point the mayor breaks the tie. Should we not be able to come to some
I
decision?
think we won't have a recommendation, so it's not a yes/no vote.
Oh,
Right.
So we need a recommendation before there's a yes/no vote. And therein lies the
Gotcha.
legal conundrum.
got you. Okay.
Alderman Boucher.
So do you need one of us to recommend no recommendation as a
I don't know that we
matter?
need a formal recommendation. We have it.
I think you kind of have it, but certainly if you want to make a formal no recommendation, that would be fine too.
And I guess we have a formal no recommendation.
We don't have a recommendation.
That's a motion. Is there a second? I'm not sure we need it, but
I don't think we need it. But if you want to take it, I'm not voting on it.
I think the de facto outcome of what we did tonight is advancing it to the council with no recommendation. Do we need a vote on that, or is that just by matter of process how it works out? If we need a vote, I'll second the motion.
Certainly is by default the end result of this evening.
Just so there's no ambiguity, I'll second the motion. The motion is to advance this to the common council with no formal recommendation tonight. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
No.
1 no.
So I'm stubborn and I don't want to leave that seat vacant.
Not sure it matters, but thank you for your stubbornness.
No, I know. It's a cheerleading act.
Okay, with that, we've got a recommendation to forward to the council next week with no formal recommendation. And that brings us to agenda item 5. Would anyone entertain a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor of adjourning, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We are adjourned.